Breaking tonight, deadly flash floods in Texas kill at least 24 people and leave a group of girls from a camp missing.
Oh my God, there's people screaming in the river.
Dramatic rescue efforts and the frantic search for those caught up in the floods.
Well, this was a catastrophic event. It was a mass casualty event.
Mixed feelings as America marks the July 4th holiday.
Bit of a scary time in many ways.
Donald Trump signs his big tax bill into law as the controversy over it heats up. A Canadian hockey star's emotional homecoming.
It's just surreal to be sitting here right now putting this jersey on.
Jonathan Toews' fight with long COVID and his journey back to the ice.
From CBC News, this is The National with Asha Tomlinson.
Thanks for joining us. This is a devastating 4th of July in Central Texas. At least 24 people are dead, many more unaccounted for after catastrophic flash flooding. Heavy rain fell in just a few hours, causing this river to burst its banks. The worst hit area is northwest of San Antonio. Poor cell service is making communication difficult. Authorities scrambled to rescue who they could. Tonight, there is a frantic search to locate a group of girls missing from a summer camp. Philip Lee Shanik begins our coverage tonight as the full scope of this disaster begins to come into focus.
Oh my God.
Police went door to door, waking up residents who live along the river and telling them to get out.
There's people screaming in the river. We're evacuating everybody.
People in Central Texas are used to heavy rains and flooding, but not like this. At times, more than 30 centimeters of rain fell per hour. The Guadalupe River rapidly rose more than 8 meters and breached its banks. Streets turned into rivers, neighborhoods submerged, and first responders scrambled to rescue people. At least 24 bodies have been recovered. Officials expect there to be more.
There's still several people unaccounted for right now at this point, but we're working really hard and we're going to continue. This is probably going to be a couple of day process, okay? We don't know when it's going to stop raining, how much more, hopefully not much more.
On a day which is usually for celebration, it's a very tough day in Texas.
This 4th of July, people were preparing for a big day. Among the missing, at least 23 girls from a local camp.
That does not mean they've been lost. They could be in a tree, they could be out of communication. We're praying for all of those missing to be found alive.
The major storm, fed by moisture from the Pacific, caused historic levels of rainfall throughout the state. Authorities say extreme flooding struck with little or no warning. No evacuation orders went out. Some were able to reunite with their loved ones. This Walmart served as a makeshift shelter where this woman waited for help.
I was thirsty, and they got a blanket for me. They took good care.
The National Weather Service has kept most of central Texas under a flood watch with more rain expected. Cleanup could take days, even weeks, and federal help has already been requested. Philip Shanik, CBC News, Toronto.
Now I want to bring in NBC's Ryan Chandler, who's in Kerrville, Texas tonight. Ryan, what sort of damage are you seeing there?
There is destruction and shock across this community. I'll show you just one of the banks that exploded overnight, making this road impassable. But this is not even the main Guadalupe River, which is where the real source of destruction and death was, rising more than 20 feet in just about an hour, wreaking havoc across this town.
Have you had a chance to speak to local residents? What are you hearing from them?
Local residents and Texans from all across the state are impacted by this. We had a chance to go to the Family Reunification Center, which was a very difficult place to be. I was talking with parents too distraught to talk on camera who were sharing that they rushed here from Dallas, Houston, Austin, all across the state when they got this terrible news this morning. I was in the room when they shared the first group of names, the girls that were successfully returned to safety, lifted out of their camp that was trapped, the only way to get out by helicopter. And there was a real sense of anxiety, relief for some parents, but for so many more who are still waiting to be reunited or waiting for word that their children are still alive. There's a lot of grief and anxiety still to come.
It is just so devastating. Appreciate this, Ryan. NBC's Ryan Chandler in Kerrville, Texas. Powerful thunderstorms are also being linked to 3 deaths in New Jersey. Falling trees were a major hazard, claiming at least 2 lives. Tens of thousands lost power throughout New Jersey and parts of New England. Many communities in the state have canceled or postponed their July 4th festivities. But in Washington, there are still events happening this 4th of July holiday. As Katie Nicholson shows us, the celebration for some is complicated by their feelings about Donald Trump's latest political win.
Independence Day, a celebration of all things American in a country about to see big changes. As a few blocks away, President Donald Trump signs his signature Big, Beautiful Bill into law after a dramatic fight to get it passed. Speaker Mike Johnson handing Trump the gavel used to enact the bill.
Are we ready? We're ready. Are you ready? Yeah.
The bill makes Trump's 2017 tax cuts for the most wealthy permanent, increases border security and defense funding, but gouges the social safety net.
Happy 4th of July. I have hats, bandanas, glasses, umbrellas.
Annette Jackson's elderly mother is on Medicaid, one of the health programs about to contract, affecting millions.
People in rural areas, they're going to be hurting. Because if they close the hospitals, then what? People are going to die. For what? The rich to get richer? That's not fair.
This crowd as deeply divided as the Congress that narrowly passed the mega bill.
Well, I'm super happy. It's the first time in a long time the Congress and President have gotten together on something and made the changes that I think we need.
Jeff Hansen and his son flew from Orlando to celebrate.
When I go to bed at night, I don't have to worry so much. Knowing that we're defended, knowing that the economy is going to be good, and I don't have to worry about my savings drying up.
Clad in Patriot swag, these pre-law students closely watching some of the rapid shifts in this country.
Bit of a scary time in many ways, but I still want to, celebrate our country and our freedom.
Likewise, the bill threatened to derail Jackson's July 4th.
It did in a way, but I'm not going to let what they do stop me from doing what I want to do. And I like to be out here with the people enjoying the independence.
Despite the stark divide, this remains a country Americans are united in celebrating. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Washington.
In Ottawa, a more muted celebration to mark the 4th of July amid a trade war started by the U.S. president that's still raging. Rafi Boudjikanian with the U.S. ambassador's take on negotiations as a key deadline approaches.
The 4th of July party at the U.S. ambassador's residence, an annual tradition for Ottawa diplomats during an untraditional year.
We have a great relationship with Canada, okay? Sure, there's always what I call pebbles in the shoe. It's not always perfect.
But Donald Trump's trade war has been anything but a minor irritant. He's threatened this country's sovereignty, hit Canada with steep tariffs, including on steel and aluminum, and attacked the digital services tax, which would have cost American tech giants billions in levies to Ottawa. Canada scrapped it to keep trade talks going.
It's part of a bigger negotiation. It's something that we expected in the broader sense that would be part of a final deal.
Another Trump target, Canada's protection for supply-managed sectors like dairy, something Ottawa is not budging on.
They can put off supply management and some of the other issues into the future.
This trade lawyer says he thinks Canada and the U.S. could reach an agreement by the Prime Minister's July 21st deadline.
If there is a deal, it will track pretty much what we've seen from the other countries that have done them, and be some sort of agreement of Canada to have some sort of minimum tariff. I think that's a minimum request. I don't see Trump compromising on that.
The U.S. ambassador also expects a deal can be reached.
I think it's realistic to work towards having a framework agreement by July 21st that outlines the parameters that then need to be filled in more detail. But directionally and knowing where we're going, absolutely.
Earlier this week, Prime Minister Carney said talks are going well, but said he won't sign a deal that's not the best he can get. Rafi Boudjikanian, CBC News, Ottawa.
The 113th Calgary Stampede is officially underway, kicking off this morning with the annual parade. Thousands gathered to watch dozens of floats and hundreds of horses pass by. Country music icon Shania Twain is this year's Grand Marshal. More than 1 million people are expected to attend the Stampede, and as Paula Duhacek shows us, even in uncertain economic times, visitors are ready to spend.
And just like that, another Stampede is off to the races.
I am so excited to be here.
It's going to be an incredible experience for me, for being a Maritimer.
Super excited. I have all my Stampede fits planned.
The Calgary Stampede is known as the greatest outdoor show on earth, but it's also considered an economic bellwether for Alberta.
I think it reflects current conditions, how people are feeling about the state of the economy, the state of the energy sector, but also a little bit forward-looking as well.
Even amid a trade war, there's plenty of excitement in the city. This Stampede comes amid talk from politicians of Canada becoming an energy superpower, and after years of inflation, prices have started to even out.
To me, this all supports more optimism, cautious optimism, around Stampede time.
Last year, the Stampede set a record with more than 1.4 million visitors, and this year, organizers are expecting even more.
There's a lot of people that are staying closer to home this year, and this is one of the biggest events in Canada. I think it's on a lot of people's bucket lists to come and check out.
Clean today.
We've got a lot of premium suites that we sell in the GMC Stadium for the rodeo and the chucks, and those are all sold out.
Visitors say their wallets are open. Do you have a budget for Stampede?
Heck no. Spend all of it.
And there are plenty of opportunities to spend money.
The sweet tea with boba.
Can do $35, I think, for 3 of them. Yes.
How much for the fries?
I think $16. Yes.
Bought 2 pairs. This one and a pair of these.
How much did that set you back?
200.
The Stampede says the economic impact of the next 10 days is around $282 million. But at the end of the day, you can't put a price on a good time.
Yahoo! Yahoo!
Yahoo!
Paula Duhacek, CBC News, Calgary.
Tonight, there's also a warning for Stampede visitors. A top Alberta doctor says anyone at high risk of contracting measles should be kept away from the event.
Certainly, if I had a 6-month-old or if I had an infant child, I would be avoiding Stampede and any other large gatherings like that.
The Stampede attracts travelers from all over Canada and the world. Alberta currently has more than 1,100 measles cases since outbreaks began back in March. Kyiv is on high alert tonight, still reeling from last night's massive drone attack by Russia, the largest since the war began, driving people into shelters, bathtubs, or anywhere they could find safety. As Chris Brown shows us, for experts and world leaders, the attack sent an unmistakable message.
Kyiv suffered for 8 hours, the largest Russian attack in more than 3 years of war, involving 500 drones. And when they hit, even underground bunkers don't feel safe. Tatiana Zarunda said something was flying every minute. The attack drones descended, and then bang. Cynically timed for U.S. Independence Day, the attack came right after Donald Trump got off the phone with Russia's leader.
Yeah, I'm very disappointed with the conversation I had today with President Putin.
Putin feels that he has all the chances of achieving his goals.
The message from Vladimir Putin is unmissable, says this Ukrainian defense expert.
But Putin showed that he has no intention of any ceasefire, let alone lasting peace with Ukraine.
Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky and Trump had their own phone call. We agreed to have a meeting between our teams to increase the strength of our air defenses, he said. Ukraine was already desperately short of interceptors, such as Patriot missiles, when word came this week that Trump was holding back some shipments. With weaker defenses on the ground, Ukraine's revered F-16 pilots have been forced to take even bigger risks in the skies. Any mission is a risk, but using your cannon is a triple risk, said the commanding officer of Maxim Ustmenko, who was killed shooting down Russian projectiles. Such mass drone attacks by Russia aren't just about hitting military targets. They're also about trying to break Ukraine's will to fight.
Germany has said it will also look at trying to buy more Patriot missiles for Ukraine from the United States. And next week, France's Emmanuel Macron and Britain's Keir Starmer will co-chair a summit aimed at putting more pressure on Vladimir Putin. Chris Brown, CBC News, London.
Hamas has responded, in its words, positively tonight to an Israeli ceasefire proposal brokered by Washington. But a truce remains uncertain. The fate of many Israeli hostages unknown. Death and hunger plague Gaza. And as Tom Perry explains, the only thing many want on both sides is peace.
In Gaza, the grieving is endless. At Nasser Hospital in Han Yunis, the victims of yet another Israeli strike laid out in white shrouds. Overhead, an Israeli helicopter. In this place, talk of a ceasefire is often met with a tortured skepticism. There's no optimism, that's over, says Mohammed Shabat. Now it's all about counting your days alive. I expect Israel will occupy Gaza, says Ihab Bakrun. More people will die and more people will leave.
One beautiful hostage deal.
On the other side of this war, families of Israeli hostages continue to demand a ceasefire and the return of their loved ones, rallying on U.S. Independence Day outside the American consulate in Tel Aviv.
We want a deal. We want a deal for everybody.
Ruby Hren's son, Itai, an Israeli-American and soldier in the IDF, was taken on October 7th.
The IDF about a year ago told us that most likely he did not survive, but the Hamas have not provided any A, acknowledgement that he is in that position, and B, what his physical status is.
Keith Siegel, another Israeli-American, was held captive for 484 days before being released in a ceasefire deal in February.
I experienced threats to my life, having weapons pointed at me and terrorists telling me that they were going to kill me.
Siegel was kidnapped along with his wife Aviva at their kibbutz, both now free, he says, though not entirely.
Until everybody is back, I think I can't feel free.
In a statement, Hamas says it's delivered a positive response to the ceasefire proposal and is ready to begin immediate negotiations on implementation. The question now, how will Israel respond and how quickly can a final deal be reached? Tom Perry, CBC News, Jerusalem.
A hometown hockey hero makes an emotional return to where it all started.
In my mind, I'd kind of accepted in a way that I might not play again.
How Jonathan Toews beat long COVID to get back on the ice. Next. Plus, the Toronto Blue Jays' wild sweep of the Yankees.
And Springer drills it to deep left center.
Why fans are so excited about the red-hot squad. And the Oasis reunion tour kicks off in Wales. It's a musical moment, 16 years in the making. We're back in 2.
There's nothing you can say that can overcome the pain right now.
That's the FC Porto president mourning the loss of soccer star Diogo Jota and his brother Silva, as family and friends gathered for their wake. Diogo played forward for Liverpool, and at a swelling memorial outside that city's stadium, people laid flowers and scarves. The brothers died in a single-vehicle crash in Spain yesterday. NHL superstar Jonathan Toews is returning to the league with his hometown team, the Winnipeg Jets. He hasn't played in 2 years due to complications from long COVID. Cameron McIntosh shows us the excitement and what got him back on the ice.
Winnipeg-born, Winnipeg-raised, and now a Winnipeg Jet. NHL superstar Jonathan Toews attempting a comeback.
It's just surreal to be sitting here right now putting this jersey on.
A shot by Toews! Toews broke into the NHL in 2007, quickly establishing himself among his generation's elite, leading the Chicago Blackhawks to 3 Stanley Cups, while also adding 2 Olympic golds. In 2023, after 15 seasons, health issues, chronic immune response syndrome, and long COVID forced him to step away.
So in my mind, I'd kind of accepted in a way that I might not play again.
Toews experimented with different treatments, some unconventional, including a detox program in India. He's been skating since February.
Still got the hands are still there, the feet will catch up, and things have slowly gotten better since then. So really happy about where I'm at.
Toews' return is being watched by specialists in long COVID.
There's a lot we don't understand about these conditions. So we have to just be kind of open-minded to allowing people to try things that they think might help them.
Toews grew up a fan of the Jets. This is a chance to make his comeback at home. A 37-year-old who hasn't played in 2 years, his contract is based mostly on games played.
Who knows what you're going to see from this player, but if he can reclaim some of his former glory, it could be a massive, massive pickup.
Jets management is making the bet after finishing first overall last season, then falling short in the playoffs.
Really, really feeling blessed to be able to have the chance to play the game of hockey again at this level, but let alone for the Winnipeg Jets.
Whether the comeback is successful or not, it certainly has Jets fans excited. He's one of the top hockey players to ever come out of Manitoba, goes from hiatus to hometown hero. Cameron McIntosh, CBC News, Winnipeg.
7-time Olympic medalist Penny Oleksiak has withdrawn from the World Aquatics Championships later this month. She says she's involved in a whereabouts case that has to do with whether she updated her information correctly. Athletes are required to update their whereabouts daily so they can be located for surprise drug testing. Oleksiak says she wants to be clear the case does not involve any banned substance. It is a great summer to be a Toronto Blue Jays fan.
Right now they're playing well and it's fun. Coming down to enjoy the game.
Coming up, the surprising turnaround that's taken the team all the way to #1. And later, best-selling author Emma Donoghue.
It's political to say that immigrants are vulnerable.
How she's celebrating the hardships and heartache of the immigrant story. Plus, what could really end the war in Ukraine.
The Russians want to see if Trump is going to blink.
Coming up, inside the push for peace. The National takes you deeper into the stories shaping your world. Next. So this is Joey Jaws Chestnut sweating from the heat and the meat as he inhales more than 70 hot dogs to be crowned the champ of Nathan's hot dog eating contest, his 17th title, folks. Mickey Sudo took the women's title, wolfing down 33 dogs. The only Canadian competing, Darian Thomas, he placed 11th. But in baseball, Canada is faring much better. If you're a Blue Jays fan, you already know they're on an epic streak. Just weeks ago, they were struggling to break even. Now they've just swept the Yankees and surged to first place. Here's Jamie Strachan on the rising hopes for a team on fire.
Now George Springer.
What a time to be a Blue Jay fan.
And Springer drills it to deep left.
Canada's team has defied expectations and roughly halfway through the season are in first place.
This is my Auntie Zena.
Alana Baker's family came from Vancouver to enjoy this run.
It's very exciting. We came right from the airport to see the Yankee game.
For the last decade, there's been little to cheer about.
Here's a pitch on the way, a swing and a belt. Left field, way back. Blue Jays win.
The Jays last won the World Series in 1993, and they haven't won a playoff series since 2016.
It's a long season. You play hot. There's going to be streaks throughout the season, but right now they're playing well and it's fun. Coming down to enjoy the game.
Consider this, the last time the Jays had 49 wins through 87 games, 1993.
Just really, really proud of these guys. You know, it's nice to be where we are. They're a real good team.
The team's stars have been good, but much of the team's success has been driven by quickly emerging fan favorites like Addison Barger, who didn't even make the opening day roster, and a resurgent George Springer.
I think we just believe in each other. I think guys know what we need to do, obviously. You know, there's still a lot to be done, and there's still a lot to be played.
Not everyone is convinced by the Jays, including longtime Yankee broadcaster Michael Kay.
The Blue Jays are not a first-place team. I'm sorry.
Jays broadcaster Jamie Campbell clapped back after they swept the Yankees in 4 games.
And I can think of a certain Yankee broadcaster, in fact, who is going to have to go on his show tomorrow and admit that the Blue Jays are a first-place team because the standings prove it.
Baseball is a notoriously long season. The question, can they maintain it?
And the Blue Jays win the ball game.
For now, Blue Jay fans have reason to cheer, reason to be excited, a reason to be optimistic about what's to come. Jamie Strachan, CBC News, Toronto.
Now let's break down the stories shaping our world. Russian missiles and drones hammer Kyiv in an overnight attack. The largest aerial assault on the Ukrainian capital since the war began. The attack came after a phone call between President Trump and President Putin. Trump says no progress was made in ending the war. So what are the main sticking points in peace talks?
It's unimaginable to think of Russia giving up what it considers to be its constitutional territory.
They have made this completely illegal move in adding our territories that didn't belong to them into their constitution.
And what could a deal look like if a ceasefire is reached? Terrence McKenna breaks down the state of the negotiations.
Every time peace talks begin about Ukraine's future, non-negotiable issues are sure to appear, making peace seem far away. Meanwhile, the vastly superior Russian forces are pounding Ukraine with missiles and drones every night. Last month, Vladimir Putin tried to claim that Russia is hitting only military targets.
Удар был не по жилым кварталам, а по объектам оборонно-промышленного комплекса. По заводам, которые производят военную технику.
That statement is demonstrably false. Video clearly shows Russian drones hitting civilian targets. Kira Rudik is a Ukrainian member of parliament.
They have attacked a multi-story building right near where I live, and I have witnessed it. I can assure you that there is nothing military nowhere around where I live.
What will it take to overcome obstacles and kickstart the process? There have been several sessions of peace negotiations, mostly at the insistence of Donald Trump. Some face-to-face, some through American mediators. The U.S. has been seen to put heavy pressure to compromise on the Ukrainian side, with less pressure on the Russian side. In 2014, Russia seized the Crimean Peninsula, and then in 2022, most but not all of Ukraine's 4 easternmost provinces, Donetsk, Luhansk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson. Russian President Vladimir Putin has made a great show of claiming those territories as part of Russia, including them in a revised constitution, and has demanded that the world should recognize his new borders.
Да здравствует Россия!
To get a Russian perspective on the negotiations, we contacted Dmitry Trenin, a member of Russia's Foreign and Defense Policy Council, who spoke to us from Moscow.
Territory is part of the resolution from the Russian perspective, and as we know, not only Crimea and Sevastopol, the chief naval base on the peninsula, but 4 other regions of Ukraine, southeastern Ukraine, are now constitutionally part of Russia. So it's unimaginable to me to think of Russia giving up what it considers to be its constitutional territory.
They have made this completely illegal move in adding our territories that didn't belong to them into their constitution. They are acting as an empire, and then they are trying to make it everybody else's problem.
American Ian Bremmer of the Eurasia Group thinks Ukraine will not legally recognize the Russian-held territory, but will accept the reality on the ground.
The Ukrainians, with NATO support, do not have the military capacity in the foreseeable future to retake that territory. And so I think there is a recognition that a ceasefire is going to have to accept some freezing in reality of the present front lines of territory.
One contentious point in the negotiations is the military status of Ukraine in the event of a ceasefire. The Russians seem to want Ukraine largely disarmed for the constant supply of Western weapons to stop. They want a written pledge that Ukraine will never be allowed to join NATO. Meanwhile, the Europeans, especially France and the UK, have said that they are planning to deploy peacekeepers to Ukraine to help defend the country after a ceasefire.
The UK is ready to put boots on the ground and planes in the air to support a deal.
In his February Oval Office meeting with Emmanuel Macron, Trump claimed that Putin would accept European peacekeepers.
Yeah, he will accept that. I've asked him that question. You don't do it?
But Russia immediately denied Trump's claim.
The Russians want it to be largely demilitarized. The West finds that completely unacceptable because they believe that Ukraine needs to be able to defend itself, or else nothing would prevent the Russians from taking that territory.
Are there terms under which Russia will accept peacekeepers?
No, certainly not European peacekeepers. Russia sees European countries as, today, I would say, as the near enemies. Russia is almost virtually at war with European nations. So Europe is a worse enemy today than the United States. And no, there's absolutely no tolerance in Russia for any Western forces in Ukraine as part of the deal, as part of the peace settlement.
Russia is living in the reality when one country, for some reason, again, can dictate to another country what it can do and cannot do. Again, I'm sorry, we are living in the 21st century when Russia has no say about its neighbors.
So with the Ukraine-Russia peace negotiations at a very difficult stage, what could a peace deal look like if a ceasefire could be reached?
Well, from the Russian standpoint, it would have to accept the realities on the ground, as the Russian leadership has been saying. It would have to have a neutral Ukraine, neutral in all respects.
If there's a peace deal, what would it look like in your view?
Interestingly, I don't think the territory is the biggest sticking point. I think the reality is that Ukraine won't accept that the occupied territory is Russian, but they recognize the reality that they can't do anything about it. So that can be fudged, that can be kicked down the road. But what is necessary is for Ukraine to have sovereignty and the ability to secure their own territorial integrity going forward.
While dragging out the peace negotiations, Russia is amassing troops on the northeast border of Ukraine, preparing a summer offensive towards the Ukrainian city of Sumy. President Putin has said his troops are ready to crush Ukraine. Do you see a peace deal as something that's likely?
I don't see it as likely this year. I think that the outcome of the war will be decided by what happens on the battlefield through the end of this year and maybe next year. But I do not see it coming in the next many months.
I agree with that. The Russians want to see if Trump is going to blink, if he's going to lose interest, if he's going to turn away from Ukraine in the next year, or if he's going to continue providing intelligence and allowing arms sales to the Ukrainians.
We do not see any time frame because Ukraine was never saying that the peace agreement is possible. This illusion that you can talk to Russia or that Putin respects Trump came from the new administration. If you ask us, we would tell you Russia doesn't want peace. If they wanted peace, they would stop attacking us.
In late June, President Putin decided to weigh in on the peace negotiations at the St. Petersburg Economic Forum. His comments were even more strident than previously.
Вы сказали по поводу областей на Украине, которые мы считаем своими. Да, я уже много раз говорил, что считаю русский и украинский народ одним народом на самом деле. В этом смысле вся Украина наша.
This week, the United States stopped providing Patriot missile interceptors to Ukraine, and future U.S. weapons deliveries are in doubt because President Trump continues to make positive comments about Vladimir Putin.
Putin speaks to me. He doesn't speak to anybody else. He doesn't want to talk because he was very insulted when he got thrown out of the GA. As I would be, as you would be, as anybody would be. He was very insulted, and I agree with him.
The international support is changing, where the United States cannot continue to be our main ally and the leader of the democratic world. So we have to rely on our European allies and on Canada more in getting the support. Inside the country, people are exhausted. This is true. However, we are in a much better situation than we were in 2022. We did not capitulate then, and we do not intend to capitulate right now.
On Thursday, after Vladimir Putin's call with Donald Trump, the Kremlin announced that the attack on Ukraine would not be suspended until Russia's original war objectives are achieved. Last night saw a new daily record of Russian drone attacks on Ukraine, 539. The Associated Press reported that the total number of Russian drones launched against Ukraine in the month of June was 5,438.
Since President Trump returned to office, the U.S. has eased some sanctions against Russia related to the war in Ukraine. Next, best-selling writer Emma Donoghue is tapping into the Irish immigrant experience with her new play, why her latest work is both personal and political. Plus, Oasis returns to the stage for the first time in 16 years. We talked to two fans who were there. Author Emma Donoghue is best known for her novel Room, but now she's out with a new musical.
His lips are like rose so fair.
It tells the true love story of Irish immigrants who came to Canada. As an Irish immigrant herself, Donoghue felt connected to the story.
I had just moved to Canada in 1998 and I wanted to feel I had spiritual forebears, those who'd done it before me.
Eli Glasner caught up with Donoghue to talk about the play and the value of immigrants.
In a rehearsal space 3 hours outside Toronto, Jane Johnson sings about her husband, Henry.
Black is the color of my true love's hair.
Gone across the sea to Canada, but never far from her mind.
His lips are like rose so fair. He's got the sweetest face.
The new musical, The Wind Coming Over the Sea, follows the lives of two Irish immigrants from the 1840s, brought back to life, all thanks to the real letters.
Dearest Henry, I've been nearly breaking my heart thinking of you alone.
That found their way to the Irish writer who calls Canada home. If the name Emma Donoghue rings a bell, you may know her from Room, her best-selling novel that went on to win the TIFF People's Choice Award and land multiple Oscar nominations. But before all that, she was a young woman in a strange new country.
I had just moved to Canada in 1998 and I wanted to feel I had spiritual forebears, those who'd done it before me and under considerably less cushy circumstances.
In a footnote about the Irish famine, she found a reference to the letters of Henry and Jane Johnson. In the mid-1800s, Henry made the difficult journey to a new country, while Jane and their children waited to rejoin. What made you fall in love with Henry and Jane?
They're remarkable because they're full of little concrete details. Like he says to her in a PS, bring the gun. So specific. But it's also full of emotional eloquence.
Donoghue was so interested in the letters of Henry and Jane, she went all the way to Ireland to look at the originals. But what she found there were only photocopies. Ultimately, it was here at Western universities that she found the actual letters in the same city she settled.
Yeah, so they're in the archives at Western, where my own papers have been since about 2014. So, you know, my papers and the Johnsons' papers are side by side, well, not side by side, they're preserved together in this wonderful climate-controlled ark that they have at Western.
But Emma, it's so interesting in that you kind of grasped onto these letters when you came to Canada, and then you went back to Ireland to look for them. And is it Providence? Like, it seems appropriate that they were actually waiting for you where you ultimately settled.
I found it a huge comfort, actually. Yes. That, you know, that I'm in the right place, and that, you know, like Jane and Henry's descendants, yes, I have rooted myself in this country.
And now Jane and Henry have jumped from the written word to the stage.
Oh, you brought scams.
After living through those letters for so many years, you see them on stage. What is it like to see Henry and Jane trotting the boards in front of you?
It's just thrilling to me because they're very real characters to me. You know, when Jane says, "May God bless you, my dearest Henry," but to actually see them come back to life physically, you know, that's a real moment of like seeing the dead walk again, you know.
But Donoghue had her own physical connection with the Johnsons thanks to another artifact, a blanket found preserved in a museum in nearby Strathroy.
And when I got to, you know, hold it myself and stretch it out and feel I was touching what her hands had touched, you know. When you've been working on somebody for ages, you'd never expect to be able to have like a physical connection to them in this way. And I was just so grateful, you know.
When Donoghue first wrote about the Johnsons in a short story, she was interested in history, but she says this place speaks to the present.
It's political to say that immigrants are vulnerable, immigrants are leaving a lot behind as well as coming to a new place, that they are just like us. They're giving up a lot to leave, and they wouldn't do it if they weren't desperate.
She says Canada needs to define itself against the anti-immigrant rhetoric in the United States.
And more I feel it's really important for Canada to emphasize its own multiculturalism and to say we are a rich country in every way because of the layers of immigrants that we have accepted in.
And so her play shines a spotlight on the hardships and heartache, an immigrant story inspired by the letters that helped anchor Donoghue in her new home.
The Wind Coming Over the Sea plays at the Blythe Festival in Southern Ontario until August 12th. Coming up, Oasis kicks off their comeback tour.
Both brothers walked out on stage holding each other's arms up. It was just phenomenal.
Why fans are loving this long-awaited musical moment. Next. So this is Jaden Helm and Lachlan Weeks, pictured here just before Oasis hit the stage for their first show in 16 years. The band kicked off their world tour tonight in Cardiff, Wales, in front of a crowd of 75,000 people from around the world. Tonight, fans' reaction to their epic reunion is our moment.
We got out of the Oasis concert, their first gig back of their reunion tour. It was absolutely phenomenal. They've been my favorite band for forever. To finally have the opportunity to see them and experience, you know, the atmosphere, the band itself, the songs, is just next level. When both brothers walked out on stage holding each other's arms up was just phenomenal. My favorite song is Live Forever. I played it. You can hear my voice is a little bit huskier than it was earlier today. And we were in tears. That's a moment I'll never forget. The songs, you know, they're about hope. And they're also uplifting to have, 75,000 people singing them like that. It's amazing. It's the best concert we've ever been to. Still doesn't feel real. It'll take quite a while, I think, for that to settle in. I think everyone who's going to see them will have the time of their lives.
A bit of the backstory, Jaden traveled all the way from Melbourne, Australia, which took about a day just to witness the first show. And then he's going to see them again in October when they play in his homeland. So he gets to see them twice. No doubt those memories will live forever in his heart. See what I did there? Thank you for being with us. I'm Asha Tomlinson. Take care.